Good afternoon. Welcome to Deconstructing Christianity with Coach Renz on this glorious, what's the day? Thursday afternoon. So if you're new to the channel, what we do here is we talk about deconstruct from Christianity. We have a few main subject matters that we talk about encompassed into four different categories. Today, we are in the category of I am more moral than God and the God of the Bible. So, and that is going to be our discussion today. Hopefully, we'll get some conversations from those who are deconstructing from Christianity, as well as those who believe in Christianity, as to why their God is more moral than I am. Right? Am I claiming to be God? No, I am not a God. I am not the God of creation or none of that kind of stuff. I'm only the God of myself. But so we're talking about morals today. We're talking about how the morals of the Bible are antiquated compared to our morality today, and even compared to the morality of most people who actually believe in the God of the Bible. So those are some of the things we're going to talk about. These are the primary categories that are listed on the prompt that I would like to talk about if a person comes up and they want to discuss and believe that their God is actually some type of moral beacon that we should be following. Oftentimes when we have this conversation, and I just actually did a video earlier today, hasn't been posted yet, but in that video, talked about the fact that most people gain their morals, even if they claim they got it from the Bible. You didn't really get your morals from the Bible. You've cherry picked certain aspects of the Bible that fits into our modern idea of what morality is, meaning that you didn't look at the Bible and say, I get my morals from the Bible, and then you read the Bible and you see those parts in there that don't jive well with what our moral stance is today. You exclude those. Every Christian excludes the morals of slavery. The Bible says that you can have slaves. Every Christian excludes the essaying that you can do in the Bible. It excludes the pedophilia that you can do in the Bible. It excludes, in most places, women's rights that you can do in the Bible. And you exclude those. You don't read those, or you try to find a workaround for those because you want it to fit how we live today based on whatever country culture that you are living in. And so the Bible is not a book that people get their morals from. People manage the Bible, reread the Bible, shape the Bible to fit what their morals are in their country or culture. We get our morals from whatever country or culture that we are living in, whatever your parents are doing, whatever your subcultures are, even within your country and your culture, whatever your subculture, that's where you get your morals from. And then people are ascribing them to different religions. And today we're talking about how, because this is a Deconstructing Christianity page, how that is done in the world of Christendom. Because if you go across the world to other countries that are filled with Christians, what you claim as a moral here is immoral somewhere else. Or what is immoral, you claim to be immoral here, is moral somewhere else. So you cannot claim that you got your morals from the Bible when all Christians don't agree. That's why I put polygamy up there. Polygamy is up there to show the differences between how even Christians themselves cannot agree on the morality of their God, because depending upon what country you were born and raised in, you're going to have a difference of opinion. If you were born and raised in America or any other westernized country, you're going to say that polygamy is wrong. But there are certain countries like in Africa, and certain countries in Africa, that polygamy is fine. If you was born and raised in the Gambia and you are Christian, which most people in the Gambia are Christians, to my knowledge. Actually, no, a lot of them are Muslims too. But I've met and dealt with a lot of Christians from Gambia who practice polygamy. And they're Christians. So who's right? Who's wrong? Who's morally right? Who's morally wrong? Please don't write in all caps. But no, this is not a list that I support. There's probably only one thing on here that I'm fine with, and that's polygamy. I don't care if adult people decide they want to do polygamy, they should be able to do it. Most everything else, not so much. Well, not at all, really. I don't know which person was first. I'm just gonna click one. Well, I guess that person was an accident. Charles Leon.
How you doing, boss?
Pretty good, Charles. How are you? Are you over 18?
Okay.
I mean, are you over 21?
Oh yeah, I'm 27. Yes, sir, for TikTok purposes.
Good,
So
good.
first thing I want to say on the polygamy, yes, sir. How many wives? How many planets does the sun have? Yay.
I still say 9.
However many it is, it's multiple. It's not just one.
Right.
Okay. And then those different planets have their own moons. They have their own concubines. Okay. We are instructed, even in bibliography, if you want to really respect it, to worship our sun. Everyone's out here focusing on the Almighty. Why is the grandson worshiping the grandfather? Worship your father, your daddy. That's what you were born to. So polygamy, yes. Slave wives, in a way, yes. But also no. The thing is,
wait. How is it? Tell me the in a way yes. How is there an in a way yes for slave wives?
So in a way, it's because the sun he's in his mass. Everything that he collects, all the planets, they're in his orbit. They're stuck there. But it's only because they resonate with his energy. So they have to listen to his rules, his laws, in order to exist in his orbit. Now, the thing is, the sun provides for those planets. He doesn't say, you have to worship me, you have to do this, you have to do that. It says, no, look, you're going around me. You want to spin around me? Well, I have certain laws if you're going to do that. I work a certain way. My sun, the beams, the energy, the rays, we as humans can't comprehend that. But that's how it goes. So no, the planets aren't slaves in a way, but in the other way, the way that humanity views slaves is a disgusting way to view it. Okay, humanity should have never enslaved humanity. That's not how it goes. The man does not enslave the woman.
Okay,
but the woman does serve the man, and not in a sick way, because ultimately the man serves the woman.
Okay, the
man has to stay still and just give and give and give and give. He doesn't even get to touch his planets, man. He doesn't get to touch them. Could you imagine how much that sucks? You give and give and give and give and give and give and give. You can't touch them. That sucks, man.
No, I can't do that one.
And then they just around you over and over and over and over. You just gotta watch them. Oh shit, she's on my backside now. She's in front of me. Ooh, is she gonna come close? Oh, she's going. Ooh, she can't go. Ooh. Still can't touch him. All you want to imagine that son's pain. $1,000,000.
Sorry about that. A call came through, so I can get.
Hey, but look, and now conquest of other nations, foul. Abraham, foul. The father of nations, foul. The Almighty teaches unity, but our Father Yahweh, He brought nations to this world, and then he apologized for it. He came back, he said, oh, my bad. I tried to overthrow my father. I was wrong, my bad. I gave y'all rules. But my father, he said I own this planet. He literally, so the rules I gave you back then were right because I gave them to you, but they were just wrong because they don't work. My bad.
That sounds like a hypocrite. That sounds like a hypocrite.
Yeah, big hypocrite, contradicted. And you know, he really sounds like a human. He sounds like a human that made mistakes and he learned from them.
Right.
That's what he sounds like.
Exactly, which is what the whole book is, just something that was written by humans based on their time frame.
Well, actually, unfortunately, that whole book is how they got it all wrong, right? You know Samson, the man who killed the lion? Why would you kill a lion? The sign of Judah. Oh, you killed him and now he has honey and bees pouring out of, and then you're going to take it to your family? Stupid.
And a make-believe. You know, there's only one bee in the world that can turn meat into honey, and that bee is in South America. It doesn't exist.
Never heard of that.
Yeah, it doesn't even exist in their part of the world. So it's just a made up bullshit. And I don't think bees migrate. Ain't no bee, and those bees are indigenous to South America, so they don't.
South America 2,000 years ago. Come on.
They didn't fly over. They didn't cross the ocean.
I'd have understood it if I saw them in every little pocket. No, that's not how it goes, man. That's a 100,000-year process, if it ever even does happen. Look, we have cactuses in America, and we have cactuses over on that continent, and Europe and Africa. Two different worlds entirely.
Yeah, exactly.
Entirely. Migration don't happen that way. But humans did migrate. We see a little bit of proof, but screw that.
Yeah.
Children's rights are probably the most important thing in the world.
Yep.
You listen to a child. A child, look, as a parent, you give your burdens to your child because that child will learn how to fix it. When you're honest with your child about how you're messing up everything, just be honest. Let them fix it. Let them fix it. When you force yourself to be a parent and you make the child listen, now you fail. The whole dynasty fails. But whenever you tell your child what the issue is when they're 4 years old, now the time that they're 9, they've already thought of a solution. By the time they're 15, they've hashed it out. By the time they're 21, they can make it a whole plan. That's the goal. The parent pushes their problems onto their children to fix it, not to curse them.
Right,
No
but
free will.
if your child is disobedient, then you stone them to death.
And that's sick, ain't it?
Very.
Because if your child's disobedient, it's because you're doing something wrong. If the spirit inside of that little kid is telling you that spirit and that child,
well, that's
a child.
You have children?
Of course not.
Sometimes it's just puberty, man. Sometimes it's just puberty.
Oh no, that's the thing. Me as the rebellious, horrible kid, I was that one. My mom sent me into custody. She had to whip me into shape. And she did what she could do, and I respect my mother to the ends of the earth. But exactly, you got that rebellious streak. But the thing is, with that child, what I learned, is that rebellious streak is teaching you something. Look, that child is rebelling because something in their spirit is saying, I need to do something to learn who I am, but you're not allowing me. So now I'm going to fight against you. Now, I'm a kid, so I don't know how to fight. I'm just going to fight recklessly, and it's going to land me worse. Yeah. And I also don't need to be exploring recklessly either. I need my parent to understand.
Understand and guide.
Understand and guide.
Yep.
And the most beautiful thing what a child is really doing is they're exploring your weaknesses. Even in ways you can't understand it. What they're really doing, what their nature, what their subconscious is telling them is to pursue the things that you're dealing with. And that's the beauty of it.
So I see that we are like pretty much mostly in agreement here that, the God of the Bible is a very immoral character in how we view morality today.
Well, did you ever read the final part of the Bible?
I read the whole thing. Studied the whole thing.
Yes, sir. What's the last part say, brother? I got it right here in front of me. I'm going to go ahead and pull it up.
I don't know about memory, but, the last part is talking about how the book of life is going to be open. If your name is found in the book, then you get to go to heaven. If your name is not, then you're thrown into this lake of fire. And then beautiful. You got to follow the commandments and give the testimony of Jesus.
See this blank page right here?
Yeah, I can't see that.
Oh, no, I'm saying this is all empty right here, right?
Right.
This is the last page. So if I bring it up to you, Jesus is talking about how he was the morning star. Son of David, he's the morning star.
The light bringer.
Yes, sir.
Planet Venus.
And what do we talk about? Planet Venus, light bringer? That's Lucifer.
Yeah.
So the whole book of the Bible is not stories of good men. It's about men who couldn't follow the message. Because Lucifer came down, he ruled this planet.
The
Almighty teaches love, right?
Lucifer is not a being. Lucifer is just an allusion to the planet Venus and how it appears to fall out of the sky when the sun comes up. It has nothing to do with any being that is the devil or anything. That's something that the 4th and 5th century churches created.
Okay.
Yeah.
So no, I respect that, and that gets deep into the personification of astrology, right?
Mhm.
You're getting into the planets and what the planets speak.
Yeah.
And look, the whole point of what this is whether he was a deity, whether he was a planet, the point is that he usurped the Almighty, which is the Father. Our sun, there's thousands of suns, millions of suns across the universe. Our sun usurped the Almighty, which is the controller of all the suns. He said, I can do better. And our Almighty, the grandfather said, try it. Go ahead. I give you control of that planet. It's all yours. You rule it. You're the Leviathan. If you have a better plan than me, show me, because I'm only here to learn, son. I'm only here to learn.
That sounds like a agnostic Mormon kind of spin to it.
Well, that's the thing. So when you get into Gnosticism,
Mm-hmm.
so I actually went to the Mormon church recently. They wouldn't hear me out on Gnosticism. The thing about Gnosticism is that's Christ. The Catholic Church, this whole book. I mean, brother, you do know that every apostle fell, right? Every apostle, they're out of here. Besides John.
Actually, none of them exist. None of them existed. None of the apostles ever existed. We have no proof that any of them ever existed. And them dying is just church tradition. There's nothing that shows how any of them died.
Well, truth. That's the thing I can tell you. So I actually, now that you said that, I'm not going to discredit. I'm going to research that. I'm going to see, because that's the only thing Jesus taught me, by the way. I'm not Christ.
Mm-hmm.
Whoever he said, Jesus, whatever it is, ask a question. Honestly, you'll get the answer.
Yeah, I did. And my answer was that he don't exist.
And thank you. I'm a look. See, what I've learned through all these apostles is, look, whether they existed or not, they're all wrong anyways. Every single one of them. Apostle John was the only one who lived, right? All the other ones went out horribly. No, hold on, I got you.
But go ahead.
John, he was like, so they dipped him in a boiling oil. He came out alive. Then he went over to the island. He wrote Revelations. He's gone. Because he lied. When you speak the truth, that's how you know the spirit.
Yeah.
But then you start to lie. When you try to claim that spirit, when you try to claim truth, when you try to claim as if you're being told something, you're out of there. You're out. When you're given an actual truth and you live by it, when it's your truth, when you're living by genuinely what you think you know, you're protected. But the second that you lie, you're out of here.
See,
don't lie to my people.
I can allow that. You can look at the stories about John and the stories of the Revelations and see them as fables. And just like Aesop fables, there's a lesson that you may be able to get out of it. But as far as historicity of John being boiled in a pot, that is something that was written by the church fathers of Christianity. There's no proof that any of that stuff ever happened. There's huge disagreement on the person who is mentioned in John, which John never says he's John, just says he's the beloved disciple of Jesus. That John and the John of Patmos are the same John. Those are different Johns.
I agree. I never believed that in my heart.
Mm-hmm.
You have the man who was out here baptizing everybody that Jesus came to, who was so pure. Then you have this John over here who's contradicted in hypocrisy, who has to learn things. No.
Right.
No. There's a difference. Jesus respected a John.
You might respect.
I respect you.
My brain was somewhere else where he respected a John.
Hey.
Pretty woman. He respected a John. Let me let somebody else get up here. I appreciate you though. Charles Leon.
I will hop out if you want me to.
Yeah.
I appreciate you, boss. Thank you. I followed you. You're a seeker.
Thank you.
So thank you.
Appreciate you too.
You have a wonderful day, boss.
You as well.
Thank you.
Oh, these buttons are in my way. That was John Leon. That's a good way to start the day. He cracked me up. I like that dude. That was funny. All right. Welcome to the show. What's your name?
My name's Mike.
How you doing, Mike? Are you over 21?
Yes, sir.
Good, good. Are you a believer in the Bible?
Yes.
All right. Figure so. Your tagline there is Lakewood Church.
Shout out to Lakewood Ministries, LLC.
Whatever. So my statement is that I'm more moral than your God. I've given a list of a few things here. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, when you say more moral, can you tell me how you're measuring that, sir?
Well, I'm measuring it based on our current state of morality today in comparison to the morality that the Bible says is supposed to be perpetual and forever.
Yeah, I'm asking how you measure it. If I ask you, how do you measure the difference in temperature, you'd say a thermometer. So I'm asking for the thermometer for morality.
Oh, the life of people, the condition of civilization. As far as, yeah, when I look at the condition of civilization based on how I treat civilization, that is my barometer. How people respond around me, how people are treated around me, how people's lives are better and safeguarded around me.
Okay, and you're saying, so what would be the ideal moral outcome? Would they just be like given everything they wanted and needed, or I guess?
Well, not so much everything they wanted, everything they needed. Yes. You know, a great document was written back in the day, and it says that everyone should be afforded the right of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. So no one should be able to interfere with that unless the pursuit of any of those things inhibits someone else's ability to pursue it themselves.
Okay, so and who's granting them the rights? Is it just other men giving them the rights themselves? Like, here's your rights, here you go. Is that what's happening?
No, as the document says, you have the inalienable rights. Like, you're born with these rights. These are rights that everyone should just respect and honor.
Yeah,
because you would want those rights for yourself.
Right, but I'm asking who says so? Isn't it just a bunch of white men with stockings on, writing in feather pen, declaring that so? Like, I'm asking why we should listen to those men. Those men actually kind of creep me out, if I'm being honest.
Those type of inalienable rights have been spoken of throughout history by different men all the time. We can find a number of them in the Code of Hammurabi. We can find a number of them in the Confessions of Maat. So in almost every civilization, there are certain inalienable rights that most civilizations agree upon because it's just a natural outgrowth of civilization. But of course, we have people who come in and they change it. They want to dominate. So not everyone is up to my moral standard.
I understand, but you could say the same that throughout civilizations, there's also been people who thought we should have slaves. So I mean, if you're just going based on like what has happened,
they were wrong.
Stuff has happened.
Yeah, they were wrong.
And on what basis would slavery be wrong from your view, though?
So, can a slave pursue whatever happiness they desire to pursue?
Anything? No, I don't think that's true of anybody.
Well, that's not necessarily true. But you're not answering the question. Can a slave?
No, neither can anybody.
All right, so slavery is wrong.
But no, that's the thing is nobody can pursue anything they want.
Why not?
Because
are you constrained from pursuing your happiness?
Yeah, I want to own a slave.
But your pursuit of owning a slave inhibits someone else's pursuit of not being a slave.
You are inhibiting me from owning a slave.
And
so you're doing the same
thing.
So
as I said, if it inhibits somebody else's need,
I need a slave.
If your wants are inhibiting someone else's rights, then you are wrong. It's just that simple. You can reword it as much as you like, but if your wants of owning someone, and that person does not want to be owned, you cannot take away their rights in order to have your rights.
Okay, but the thing is,
do you want to be a slave? Do you want to be a slave?
I haven't met the right person.
It's a yes or no question.
Well, it's kind of loaded because what if I just never experienced it the right way?
No. Do you want to be a slave?
No, I want to be the owner.
All right, then. So, but what if I want you to be my slave?
I guess we're gonna have to figure out who makes a better owner.
Or maybe no one should own anyone because you have the right of agency to choose. See what I'm saying?
But that's what I'm asking. It's like, who gives you a right to anything? It seems like it's just a matter of like guns.
That's what it's been in
Right.
society. Whoever is the
Isn't it
strongest,
still?
it pretty much still is that. Whoever is the strongest gets to
Yeah.
decide what the situation is. But
Yeah.
do I think that that's the correct way it should be done? No.
Okay, but you kind of do though, because if a bunch of men get together and say, we have this thing called rights and we're going to enforce it with guns, it's still men with guns saying, hey, there are rights. And if you don't operate according to that, we're going to throw you in jail. Seems like same thing.
It's not. And we're going in a circle. So
Okay.
do you have anything about the subject matter that we're talking about?
Sure. Do you think there's ever a moment in time where the best moral thing is to actually enslave someone? I can give you an example if you want to interact with this example.
Sure. What's your example?
Okay, like let's say there's a war and there's women and children who don't have men around them who are sort of like wandering in the woods. And if you don't pick them up against their will in order to protect them and leave them to their own freedom and autonomy, they horrible things might happen to them and maybe certainly will happen to them. Is it better to rescue them against their will and to protect them against their will, or to let them get unsaid thing I can't say on TikTok happen to them? Which would it be better to put them in a position against their will?
That's not slavery. What you're
What do you mean?
what you're describing is not slavery. That is saving. You're describing saving someone who may not desire to be saved, or it is in just a bad
It's
situation.
kidnapping.
That's not slavery.
It's kidnapping, but it violates the same thing.
Does the
Slavery's
person
wrong,
does
though.
the person saving the person own the person?
If by your standard, if I point a weapon at someone and say you're coming with me, I'm violating the same principle you're saying the reason slavery is wrong.
You're
So
not.
it should be
You're
wrong.
not. You're not. You're
So is it wrong?
you're apples and cucumbers, my guy.
Is
So
it wrong to
what
kidnap
is
someone
give
against
me
their
you
will?
said you had a real life situation. What's the real life situation? Apply that to a real life situation that
I
has
just did.
happened.
There's a real life situation
Mhm.
that has happened,
Mhm.
both in history and in the Bible.
Name it.
What?
Name it in history.
I just told you.
No, you
if
didn't.
women-
You gave a whole big general thing. Name it. And see, I can name that in history. Let me name it in history for you.
women-
Let me give you an example. Let me give you an example.
You're not letting me answer.
Because your answer is just philosophical word salad. So let me
No, it's
give.
not.
So I'm
In
going to.
war, women children are left alone when men go to war, right?
Oh my gosh.
Yes or no?
No, they're not actually.
Oh, really? They're not left at home alone.
No, because all the men don't leave.
Okay, so they're left to other men, right?
Yeah. So let me first tell you that you're talking to somebody who's been in war and someone who has studied warfare. Right.
Okay.
Now, when we went to evacuate Liberia, there were people that we evacuated who weren't trying to be evacuated, but because of the conditions around them, they were evacuated anyway.
Okay.
Now, when we got them to the different places, like one of the places we let people off was in Rota, Spain. When we got them to Rota, Spain, they were processed. They had choices. Do you want to go to America? Do you want to go to England? Do you want to go to France? The people chose where they wanted to go. A lot of them and most of them chose to go to America. One particular guy named Andy, he chose to come to America. And about 7 years later, I ran into Andy, who is someone that I directly put on a helicopter, even though he wanted to stay in country and continue to fight. But I was like, I got to get you out of here. But Andy was never my slave. That's the difference of slavery and the situation that you're talking about. Andy was never my slave.
Okay. We can move to intolerant of other beliefs. If I don't believe in rights, aren't you intolerant of me if I say I want to live a life that denies that rights exist? Don't you necessarily have to be intolerant of my view?
It doesn't say intolerant of others' rights. It
I
says
beliefs.
intolerance
If
of
I
others'
don't-
belief.
If I don't believe in rights and I act accordingly, don't you have to be intolerant of my beliefs as I act them out?
No.
No.
What are we talking about here, dude? Because in this,
I'm talking
so
about
let me
violating.
let me explain
Here,
it. Let me explain it in a little more detail so that you can comprehend it instead of trying to change. Instead of trying to change the meaning of what I wrote up there. Intolerant of other people's religious belief. If you,
religious belief.
yes, if common now in America, especially here in Texas, people are being intolerant of people's belief of Islam.
Yeah, based.
If they're not forcing their religion on you, you should not have they should be able to practice their religion as freely as they want to, as long as it doesn't violate any of the laws that have been established for this country.
Okay. Do they have the right to change the law?
They have by process, yes.
Okay, so they could actually change the law to make it so you could marry a 9-year-old and you'd be fine with it so long as they change the law?
If they are able to change that law, I don't have to be fine with it. No, because I can fight against it. Even if the law changes, I can fight against it because we have a political system that allows you to fight against laws that you don't agree with, but to fight against it with tolerance by saying that I'm going to vote or I'm going to run for office or I'm going to become a lobbyist. There are multiple different ways you can fight against it.
Yeah.
And then
so
you hopefully you win.
You wouldn't tolerate the Muslims' belief if they were to say my beliefs in foreign policy that says I could marry a 10-year-old. You wouldn't tolerate that.
In this country, I would not, because it's against the law that we've established in this country. If we were living in a country like Saudi Arabia at a time frame that was allowable, then you can't go to their country and force them to change their laws, because the majority of the people there have agreed that this is going to be the law of the land. So who are you to decide what their laws are?
That would make you intolerant, though. You should at least remove that last part.
That is not being that does not make me intolerant. That just means that that means that I disagree. To be intolerant is to bring about causal actions towards that person.
Policy is a causal action, sir. You're literally voting for force to make something illegal that they want legal. That is literally using force action. Right?
No.
That's right.
No, it's using the process that we've agreed is going to be our process.
The process that is backed with a gun.
It's not backed by a gun.
Policy is not backed by a gun.
So if you live in a community where you have an HOA about how to cut your grass, do they come to your door with a gun and say you better cut your grass?
No, but they will fine you, and if you fail to pay the fine,
you said it was by a gun.
Yeah, ultimately it is.
That is not a gun.
No, ultimately there is a gun.
Because when you moved, because
you
you had the freedom when you moved into that neighborhood to not move into that neighborhood.
No, once you agree to pay the HOA and you fail to pay, guess where you show up?
Okay, what part did you missed that I just said? You had the freedom to choose whether or not to live in that neighborhood. Yeah, so if you don't like that neighborhood's HOA, don't live in that neighborhood. You have that freedom.
The question isn't whether I have the freedom to live in an HOA or not. The question is if whether or not living in an HOA is enforced by the gun, and it is.
It's enforced by finances. You can utilize the word gun as a euphemism.
It's enforced by a gun too.
You can use gun as a euphemism.
Can you print your own money, sir?
Bro, can you have an intelligent conversation? Because you're not. You're really not having an intelligent conversation. You're not showing Lakewood to be an intelligent organization. You're being a horrible representative of Lakewood.
I don't think my congregation is intelligent, to be fair, but that's why they need me.
And that makes them even less intelligent if they're following you and going through your circle talk of trying to make everything fit into your little paradigm, because it just doesn't work.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Okay, I have one more question then. If your system, so long as you don't violate someone's autonomy and it's all based on consent and it doesn't violate the law, then it should be fine. I have a question for you. If Grandma Mildred signs a waiver before she dies that her body can be diddled, and it's totally safe and it doesn't violate any autonomy, are you okay with posthumous cadaver diddling?
So I'm going to answer this with this. It's my grandfather's wisdom, and it's a common thing that's said. If was a fifth, we'd all be drunk. Goodbye. I went from a laughing, happy conversation to a freaking idiotic conversation. Oh shit. A lot of y'all have asked, requested up. I have no idea what order you guys had asked to come up. So I'm just going to start pressing buttons. I'm sure that a lot of these people dropped. One of the things about doing lives is that you endure some of the dumbest conversations. Isn't Lakewood Joel Osteen's church organization? Rosetta. 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 I think Rosetta might have did it by accident. You know, I have this expectation of having intelligent conversations with people. And oftentimes, when it's a believer, that is not the outcome. Some of these people must have hit it by accident. We got people coming, dropping. I'm just clicking all over the place. Drop queen. Drop queen. Drop queen. I guess drop queen is not there. We got to respond quickly because I will click the button. Okay. I'm clicking. Oh shit. This thing, Barnacle, how you doing?
I'm all right.
Pretty good. I know I talked to you before, so I know you're over 21.
Yes.
I don't remember if you're a believer or not.
I got a question for you.
Are you a believer?
Yeah, of course.
Okay. Go ahead.
Do you like barbecue?
Sometimes.
I've been smoking meats this summer. I think I'm getting good at it. Yeah.
Okay. Do you have something about the subject matter that we're talking about?
My eyes not that good. Give me a second. The genocide of people. I think this planet's seen a lot of genocides of different people, unfortunately, all shapes, sizes, skin colors, and creeds, whatever. I feel sad for humanity sometimes when you think about it, you know.
Okay, but we're talking about the fact that the God of the Bible approves genocide. And I personally would never approve genocide.
I know. I think the God of the Bible, we put a lot of expectations, but it does say from the Bible that God is good and I'm good and I'm all these things. But when you read the Bible and you comprehend and you see the things that God has done, and you're like, man, this is not good. This is kind of evil. But I don't think God exists on our limitations between good and evil. Like, God has both those powers. And sometimes you got to break a few eggs. Unfortunately,
so you think it was? So you think it was? So you think it's okay for God to order a genocide?
I can't question. Like, I personally don't think it's okay, but who am I to question the story of?
You're a conscious being that has the ability to reason, to have empathy and sympathy.
I do have the right to say I think this is wrong, but even if I do say that, how can I change what happened? it already happened.
Well, you could
Just ponder on it.
if your God came to you and said, "Hey, go genocide these people," do you not have the ability to say no?
That's why he gave us free will to decide. But some things can be wrong, some things can be bad. If you decide to disobey, you have that free will to go to hell or go to heaven. At the end of the day, that's your power, your choice.
So you would choose the
And
genocide so that you can go to heaven?
I wouldn't say I would. I didn't say that I would.
Well, you
Like, I
said.
think that
So are you going to follow this? So that's what I'm asking. Are you going to follow this guy's thing? And he says, "Hey, I want you to go to Houston. I want you to genocide all the whole town of Houston. That means killing all the babies, going to the hospital, kill the little kids who are in the cancer ward, kill the little babies who were just born. You're going to go and kill all of them?"
I didn't say that. I didn't say that I would agree to genocide. What I'm saying is here.
Well, that's what I'm asking. Are you going to agree if your God told you to go kill all the children in the cancer ward? Are you going to go and kill those kids?
Hell no, man. No.
So you're going to go to hell then?
So I wouldn't necessarily think hell is a bad place, and I don't necessarily think heaven is a good place. I think that the mind places these labels or whatever, these experiences, but when you're dead, how do you know that you have the same experiences of pain?
Well, if you believe in the Bible says that if you're not found in the book of life, if you didn't follow his commandments, if you didn't do the testimony of Jesus, then you're thrown into the lake of fire. So if God
here's what
commands you,
I don't necessarily think heaven is a good thing or hell is a good thing. I think those are just like prisons for the mind, prisons for the soul. Like, what if there's more than heaven? What is there's more than hell?
so you really don't believe the
Why does
Bible.
why does it have to be this or that? Why do I have to be a prisoner? Like, why can't I just choose if I wanted to go to hell
So-
or if I wanted to go to heaven? I guess you do get the choice, but
So you don't believe the
why does
Bible.
it have to be a choice? Like, why can't I just be free of both?
So you don't really believe the Bible.
I believe it much more. I think that the Bible is just like part of the story.
Okay. But if you believe the Bible, there is no, you get a choice to go to heaven or hell based on what you think. You go to heaven or hell based on whether or not you believed in the testimony of Jesus and follow the commandments. That gets you into heaven or that gets you into hell. It's binary.
Well, let me say that I cherry pick from all religions. I cherry pick because I think they all trying to tell some truth, and I hear it. Like I hear the truth. Like I'm old enough to see, at least in my personal journey, like I've put bits and pieces together here, nuts and bolts here, a little bit here and there to my own understanding.
Okay.
And I think I figured something out. Like I know there's some type of divinity in this world. Like I can see it sometimes. I can feel it. Like it's like if you're in a dream and you stub your toe.
I can't talk.
Let me finish this.
Well, no, but I don't. I'm not gonna let you. I'm not gonna let you finish it because I don't talk about feelings and experiences and that sort of thing. I talk about facts.
I mean, that's what life is, isn't it? Observation, facts, experiences.
No, experiences are not facts.
You can't.
Feelings are not facts.
What I've experienced.
Those aren't facts, though.
You can't validate.
Those aren't facts. Me and my wife had dinner with two other people that we know last night. We both walk away with different feelings about it. Feelings aren't facts. Feelings are only facts upon yourself.
I mean, as a man, you shouldn't invalidate feelings. I know feelings shouldn't control you, but don't.
Not what I'm talking about. Ain't got nothing to do with what I'm talking about.
True, you're right.
Feelings and experiences are just your way of perceiving something, but that doesn't mean it's factual. No, it's not all we have. We have factual things that we can look at. We can look at the Bible and see where it says that God commanded these people to go and genocide and kill all the men, women, and children, everything that had breath, and burn the whole town down. That's what it says in the book. The words mean the words.
We kind of agree on the same thing about the Bible. Like, I don't think that the Old Testament is fully moral. I think he's done some pretty truly wicked things. But hear me out. What if, like, the evil in the world? Here's my idea. Like, what if God was like in a chariot and Satan was the beast driving that chariot and Satan is God's pet here on earth? I wouldn't want to say pet. I don't want them to have like a relationship, but there's some type of something's going on between them. I think Satan has a job to do.
If this was a what if show, I would entertain it, but this is not a what if show. You know, this is why there are 42 different hundred religions in the world today, because somebody said, well, what if?
But think outside the box, not be too rigid. That's what the problem with humans are. We're so rigid. I'm
only talking about this information right here. I can talk about the thing that you're talking about, but that's not what the show is about today. So I am rigid on my conversation about what the show is today, because that's the expectation of the audience. So that's so I will be rigid. Now, if I was having a show of saying, what is your best what if cause of the cosmology of everything, we could talk about that all day. I'd allow all the what ifs, but that's not the conversation today.
But I think everything has a place, everything has an order, everything has a job. And I know evil is absolutely wicked, but I understand that it has its purpose, and I don't take it personal.
Okay.
And it's the same with good.
All right.
It has to be.
Barnacle, I appreciate you today, but you don't want to talk about the subject matter, and that's fine.
Right.
We'll talk again next time, okay?
Right. See you again.
All right, appreciate you, man. Yeah, there's a bunch of people on the waiting list, so I want to try to stick to the conversation. All right, Drop Queen.
Hello.
Hey, how you doing?
Hi.
I'm fine.
I'm
over?
Fine. How are you?
Doing well. Are you over 21?
I'm good. Yeah. Oh, I'm 52 in October.
52 in October. Okay. Are you? Hey, October what?
I'm sorry, you're kind of going in and out.
Oh, October what?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Go ahead. 5th.
Oh, 5th? I'm the 15th. That's why I was asking. So, are you a believer?
Acting up. I heard y'all just fine, but as soon as I get in the box, it start tripping. Okay, I think I got you now.
All right.
It's October 5th.
Okay. Yeah, I'm the 15th. That's why I was asking.
Why you asked me that?
Because mine is on the 15th.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So, I wanted to know, I'm kind of like the other gentleman who was asking you to measure, or how do you measure morality? What does morality look like? Because we both can have difference of opinions on what's moral.
Well,
do you agree?
I agree.
Okay.
That's why all moralities are subjective. There's no such thing as an objective morality. This is why we can see moralities changing throughout the history of man's civilizations. And we can just look around the world right now and see that other countries got different morals than we do.
Right. And even within this country, we have different moral standards.
Exactly.
So I believe that's why mankind can't be the progenitor of what's good and evil. Would you agree?
No, because we are.
You think so?
Yeah, man has always determined what's good and evil.
I don't think that we determine what's good and evil. I think that we take precepts or instructions always from some religious standpoints, some Bibles, some scrolls, something that's given us an ideal of what's good and evil. I don't think we would decide ourselves. I think we look outside of ourselves to look for some being, God, to give us that standard of where that starts.
We may look to that, but ultimately it is man who is deriving at the ideas of what this God is saying. Huh? Your phone messing up again?
I'm sorry. I'm going to drop down and try to come back. I hate that my internet is not working. I've been on a messy side all day and it was working just fine. Talk about God and not want to mess up, but I'm going to come back. Give me just a moment.
Okay.
Trying to see if I can get it together. Thank you.
All right. No problem. While she's getting it together, I know I saw this name earlier. Echo Bully. Echo Bully. Hello.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you now. You there?
Excellent. How's everything going?
Pretty good.
I hope.
Pretty good. Now we've talked before, so I know you're over 21.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Yes, I am. And I guess we got a bit of a lag.
You got what? What'd you say?
Just a little bit of a lag. That's all. Just a little bit of a lag in our conversation.
Okay. So what are your thoughts?
I'm skeptical on these thoughts. There's not this. Bible is not where we get our it's from. There's no free will. If it was, then there would be no free will because
You're breaking up terribly.
I have this plan and blah 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 blah.
Echo, you're breaking up.
Let me go back in.
right. And yeah, unfortunately, when people drop, I have to bring, because I don't know how long the drop is going to take. I bring in other people. Culture.
Peace.
How you doing?
I don't know if I'm what you want. Do not agree with the God of the Bible. So you may want some pushback, but the God of the Bible is not a compass for morality.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, you'd be hard pressed to show me examples of God's morality in the Bible. God is the progenitor of revenge, of othering. If you just read the scriptures, this isn't me adding mustard. If you just read the scriptures, people, and people's comeback is always, God of the Bible is sovereign. I know that's bad. I know this is bad, but so we are required by this God of the Bible to have better morals than what he projects himself. And I'll give an example. We can all agree on this panel. Anybody listening to me, we can all agree that a brother and a sister should not be in a relationship. We can all agree to that. I don't care what your religion is. I don't care how you were raised. You can be a vegan. You can be gluten-free. We can all agree we can all agree that step brothers and sisters should not be in a relationship. We don't even have to split hairs. And the Bible starts right there with somebody coming in from we're not even going to get to the political parts. We can agree that the Bible states that Abraham and Sarah were brother and sister.
Yep.
We can agree that Abraham and Sarah kind of Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell Hagar. You can agree to that. That's not me adding mustard. That's what the book says. We can agree that the book says that Abraham, who was a sex trafficker in a relationship with his sister, was a deadbeat dad who kicked his child out the home.
Mm-hmm.
This is what the Bible is said is blessed. And I don't have fear when people tell me that because I can stand 10 toes down and say that is wrong. Something is wrong with that. Then I'm going to hell. And if then so be it. I'll be there. I don't want to be in no place where people where I don't want to be next to Abraham and Sarah. I don't want to be next to David. Redeemed or otherwise.
No, I agree.
And we understand that when people speak of God, they speak of what they feel is moral and right in their own head. You can't line 3 believers of any faith up and have them recite. There's nothing concrete within the faiths.
No, it's not.
There's nothing outside of sending somebody to hell.
Yeah, that's why I put polygamy up there, because you can find Christians on all over this planet who would agree and disagree on polygamy all day long.
Exactly.
And they will both say that the Bible says so and this is what God wants. And when you whittle it down, it comes down to what country, what culture did they grow up in? and that'll determine it. So it's not God that's making that determination. It's them, and then they apply it to their God.
Well said, well said. And like I said, we can go into slavery. Like I said, I don't want to take all the air out the room, but I appreciate you for letting me up, and thank you very much, sir. I'll be sure to follow.
All right, I appreciate you. Thank you.
Good.
All right, let's try Drop Queen again, see if her internet is acting better.
Hi, thank you so much. It is. Ugh, I was worried. So I was saying that, okay, just like the gentleman who just left, he said that we can agree that having relations with your sister is wrong. Some people do believe that's okay. So he really made my point that this is why mankind can't say what's moral. But I'd like to ask you, what's more moral in you than in God?
Well, see, what's more, so the God of the Bible laid out his, even though the gentleman before said it, we can't see what God's morals are. He actually showed all of God's morals, the God of the Bible's moral. And the God of the Bible's morals say that a man, a brother and a sister can have sexual relationship and get married and so on and so forth. I say no, because I understand the science behind it and I understand how nasty it is. So I would determine that my moral standard is that brothers and sisters should not engage in sex together or marriage together. And that's a self-determining thing. You don't have to agree with it. No one else has to agree. But we can see that the Bible God, he says it's okay for a while. He does get to a point where he says that don't do it anymore. But initially he was okay with it.
Can we understand that if we look at the Garden of Eden, we know that there were other people there, but at some point all of those people were very close kin. So can we accept to do it because we can go to Noah?
Actually,
can we accept to do it
to
replenish the earth?
No.
Is it then okay?
No, because
you just don't have any more.
Well, I have to say no to that one simply because historically, the story of Genesis 2 and the story of Genesis 1 are two separate stories. So according to the writers of Genesis 2, there weren't any other people around. And the other mystical people just showed up. They just come out of nowhere. Genesis 1 gives you an idea that God just created men and women all over the place. Genesis 2, you would have to indicate that he must have had sex with a sister or some other sibling, because he just found these people in the land of Nod. Now, if you incorporate books outside of the Bible, like the book of Jasher, Jasher tells you that Cain married his sister.
Right. So that's what I'm saying. So when you're looking at it from that perspective, that it's to fill the earth, do you then say it's okay? That's the question I'm asking.
No, I still don't, because that shows a bad planning of a God. So the first thing is that I don't believe in the Genesis story at all, because it's historically is wrong. There were people all over the planet thousands, tens of thousands of years before the Adam and Eve story, because the Adam and Eve story goes back to 4004 BCE. But we know people were on the planet long before 4004 BCE. But even if if I granted you that story is right, then the morality of this God was to have brothers and sisters having sex in order to fill the planet, when he could have just, if I was God, I would have just made a bunch of people so that brothers and sisters don't ever have to have sex. There would have never just been two people, and then those two people have to replenish. I would have never flooded the whole planet and killed everybody so that three brothers and their wives can start having kids, and then the cousins start getting together. I would never have done that. So
we most times, if we look at the history of mankind, we are in some ways having relations with someone who's to us, even if it's a cousin to the 10th power. We're all related. Would you agree that we're all related?
To an infinitesimal amount, yes. Like the most smallest, simplest amount, there may be relations, although there can be no relation whatsoever. So
Okay.
There,
So I just think that's where I differ. I do believe
but that is
there
a
is a relation.
that is a huge leap, though, to say that me and my wife, if we go back far enough, which we're gonna have to go back, probably based on what I know of her ancestry and what I know of my ancestry, we're going to have to go back to thousands of generations before we may find a common ancestor. And so,
I have
because
a question.
yeah,
Why would you say you have to go thousands of generations when we actually know that we were in slavery? And you can be just going back maybe 6 or 7 generations. See, unlike Africans who keep a record because they all live in the same village of that 5th or 10th generation, us as African Americans, we don't have that to actually know, okay, this was my great grandfather's first wife who was sold to another family. You see what I mean? So
Right.
for us, we can indeed go ahead.
okay. So, and this is why I say for me and my wife, because we've done a lot of ancestry work to figure out our ancestors, and all the way back to the native tribe that what my wife comes from, as well as the African tribe my wife comes from, and the African tribes that my family comes from. We would have the closest that we would get would be somewhere back to the Bantu migration, is where we possibly could have a common ancestor, because her native tribe has,
So you do know your Igbo. So you
well, Yoruba. Part of mine is Yoruba, Mali, and Dahomey. Right.
okay?
So
You're from America. You live in America.
Yeah. Now hers
Okay.
is not. Hers, a large part of hers is I forgot the name of the native tribe in coastal North Carolina. So I can't remember the tribe. So hers is a large part of that. Some white folks, and then the African tribe for her is more in the Ivory Coast area. Except for like the Bantu migration, we would probably have to go back there to say we definitely may have someone in the Bantu migration. Now, could there have been some mixture between the Ivory Coast, the tribes in the Ivory Coast, and the people in the Dahomey, which is modern day Benin, since they are closer to each other? That's possible. But of course, without the records, we can't really get that one. But it would go back. So it would go, that's why I said probably it's going to go back thousands of generations, because the Bantu migration was a long time ago.
Yes, I agree. So, when you say, give me examples that would make you more moral than God.
I would, if I was God, I would have outlawed slavery from day one. Never any slaves. And essaying women would be outlawed, and genocide would have been outlawed. No genocide.
Okay. So are you talking about people who were in servitude? Because that's really what slavery was about, servitude to another to pay off a debt, not the chattel slavery that we experienced here in America.
Nope. If you read Leviticus 25, verses 44 through 46, that is chattel slavery, where you own a person as property and you're able to pass them down to your sons as an inheritance. That's chattel slavery. That's the same slavery that happened in America. And in all of the Americas, it was chattel slavery. Now, indentured servitude happened as well, but that was only between European and European. But just as the Bible says, of the nations around you and the foreigners who live amongst you, you may buy them as slaves and own them as property and pass them down to your sons. So that's what happened in the Americas.
Okay, but in the Levitical servants were supposed to be treated as hired workers. I'm a slave right now. I'm at my desk.
No, well,
I feel like a slave too.
no. So
I can't go. They
nah.
can trade me to another department.
But what you can do is quit, right? Can you quit?
Can I?
Can
in
you?
this economy?
No,
They make it
don't-
so you can't.
don't
I
do
can,
it.
I can. I can.
Exactly. I'm gonna say, don't make me get in the car and drive wherever you at and look at you and fuss at you. You can quit. The slave in Leviticus 44 through 45 cannot quit. They are owned as property until they die. Now, what a lot of pastors do is that they'll look at Leviticus 25 around 34, 35, verse 34, 35. That's talking about the indentured servant who's paying off of a debt. And they'll try to make that in comparison to the chattel slavery in America and say, see, they were different. The Bible never condoned it. But they never read down the 44 and 45 and show you the distinction between if you have a Hebrew person who is in debt or don't have money, you can make them a slave, a servant for 7 years. And that's only for men, though, by the way. You can make them a servant for 7 years. But foreigners, you can make them slaves for their entire life and pass them down as property. And mind you, when it's talking in the earlier parts of Leviticus 25 about indentured servitude, that's only for men. If you are a woman, then you are a property and slave for life. And you can become a wife, so you become a slave
year
wife.
of Jubilee that they're supposed to be
Mhm.
released every 50th year. And the only reason I don't see this as chattel slavery because they want to, but I see what we went through as chattel slavery because of the treatment that we endured during the slavery. That's the only reason I separate the two, because the treatment that we experienced that the Bible actually speaks against.
Okay. There again, this is where the church has led you astray without telling you all the information. So
don't tell me the church. I read the Bible. Don't put that on no
Okay.
church. I read the Bible. I don't trust no pastor.
well, I'm gonna need you to read it again, because the as far as Jubilee every 50 years or 7 years, that is only for men. Men can leave. Now, the only way a woman can leave is if the man was already married to the woman when they first came into the servitude. Then the whole family can leave. If the man came in by himself and the master gives him a wife, then the wife and the children still cannot leave. They're servants for life. So in that, they're servants for life. Now at the bottom of
Are
Leviticus,
you talking about foreign slaves?
no, this is
You're
not
talking
foreign
about
slave. This is slaves of.
Okay, you're talking about the Israel.
This
You're
is
talking about
Israelite. This is
Okay.
indentured servitude. Now, when you get into the foreign slaves are just property for life, no matter what. There's no year of Jubilee for them at all. They're passed down as inheritances. Then at the end of that, and I think it's like verse 47, 48, it tells them you can treat the foreign slave harshly, but don't treat your fellow Israelite harshly. And then in Exodus, it tells them that you can beat your slaves as long as they don't die within a couple of days of the beating. Because of the beating, then the master is not punished. So you can beat your slaves in the same way that they did in the chattel slavery of America. And the part that a lot of people jump to is like, well, it says if you knock a slave's eye out, then you got to set them free and all this sorts of thing. That was only for Hebrew to Hebrew servitude, not the foreigner slave that you gathered. And this is why in the state of Louisiana, on their slave books, it has a law that says that if you beat your slave and your slave don't die within 24 hours, then you're not punished for damaging your own property. But if they do die, then then there's a fine that they had to pay.
And see, I think I heard you say that the foreign slaves were slaves forever.
Yeah.
The Israelite slaves were the slaves that could be released.
Yes.
But I'm kind of skimming through it, and it seems like the women and children were able to be released, but I don't really have time to read the thing now, but I will go back and read it, and let me follow you so I can go back and tell you later what I got from it.
Yeah.
And okay, so the only reason that I don't believe in everything in scripture, I know that it was changed many times over. I like the Apocrypha, though I haven't really taken time to read it. I bought it for everybody in my family because I think it does us a disservice when we just stick to the King James version of the Bible instead of reading all of the other books that should go along with it. But the only reason that you can't kind of turn my mind here is because I don't think that humans have the fortitude to decide what's right and what's wrong. I'm gonna leave you with this example. Sometimes I'm very adamant about going up against evil. And there's a reason that I do that, because I don't want something that I perceive to be evil to come back and affect me and my family. If I was on a jury, for instance, and I don't believe in unaliving people, but they can be a person who's done some very bad things to some families. And if I'm not willing to stick up for that family, that same person can come back. And I envisioned this in a movie. I wish somebody would write it because it's so good.
You write it.
It's some.
Somebody else
so much. I don't have time. It's good though. So if somebody chooses to take the side of somebody who does wrong, for instance, somebody's in the street and they unalive a person, and I can witness and testify to that person did this, but instead I turn my back because I'm busy. I don't have time. And then later on in life, that same person unalives one of my children. I had the opportunity to stop that person in their track, but because I turned my back on the situation, then I reaped what I sowed with them coming back and doing something to my family. So that's the only reason I don't believe that mankind have a moral fortitude, because for somebody, morally, I should mind my business, but for somebody else like me, I would step in. So that's the only reason. Like the gentleman said, he didn't believe people can sleep with their family members. Other people do. YT people usually think it's okay. Many of them think it's okay to sleep with their family members. So we have to take into account their moral fortitude also.
Like, I would love to push back on that one, because I look at people as a whole. But I was in the Marine Corps with too many West Virginia and people, so I'm a little warped on that one. But right. also, and you're of my generation, so you know that you had them uncles that they told you to stay away from, because they were messing with the little girls in their own family. And most people who've been essayed by anybody generally is somebody they know or family member. So, but I understand. I understand. Looking at people, we can say people don't have the moral fortitude to be able to come up with morality. But when we dig down into the data of human civilization, before there was a God, people created moralities for their particular group. So when man just looked at the sun and the moon and they attributed gods to the sun and the moon, they had already established moral laws for themselves, and then they attributed it to that God to make the people be submissive to the rules of morality that they're establishing during their time frame, which is and we can see that progression of how those rules and morals change based on civilization changing. But
you know what? You still went back to the point that I was making. You still went back to an idea of a God that gave them the premise to base their laws on. No, they still did that.
You missed the part that you missed it. You missed it. Man, like a pastor right now. Watch this. But what I said though, they established the rules first, the morals first, and then they attribute it to a god or a goddess.
I'm gonna tell you this, and I gotta go because I'm really supposed to be home.
I'm telling.
My husband is Nigerian, and one thing he and I don't agree with, and we have this conversation a lot, is in the jungle justice. I told him, y'all can be, because he always tells me story. People from Nigeria, he's in America, but his family is still in Nigeria, and they're always sending him videos of somebody they didn't beat, they didn't burn, they didn't strip of their clothing, and they walked on the street. For them, That's their moral fortitude,
Mm-hmm.
right? So how can that be moral to think that you're doing your society a justice by doing this? Because it does, just like prisons doesn't stop crime. Jungle justice don't stop crime neither.
You know, you're making my
So
point.
that's why. So that's why only God can make those decisions. No, I'm not making your point. You said these are men. These
Right.
are men who made the laws that decided this was right.
And they decided it was right, and they attributed it to some deity, most likely. Are they Yoruba or Igbo?
Igbo.
So they probably attribute that to a guy like Esau. I mean, not Esau, Eshu. Because the Eshu has a tendency to.
Ugo. I know it's Ugo because it's a part of my husband's name. But it was nice talking to you. I really
yeah,
gotta go.
you.
And I followed you and I'm gonna be back. I appreciate it.
All right, you have a good one, and don't get fired from my account. Bye.
I'll be listening.
All right. Folks on the job gonna get in trouble. See, that's why anytime I've owned a company, I always told my employees, phones go in the safe. If you have family emergency, they need to call the company. Put your phone in the safe. Oh, okay. That was good. Okay, that makes amends for the Lakewood dude who was up here. God damn, a whole bunch of y'all not clicked on his, and I didn't get to see everybody's order. You see, I clicked on Juju, but Juju's gone. I knew he was here beforehand. I don't know who else is next, so I'm just gonna go start clicking on names. Give it a second, because sometimes it takes a second to load up. Let's go to the next name. I'm just going, starting from the bottom and going to the top. They should, TikTok, if anybody from TikTok is listening, y'all should put, when people request up, they should stay in an order. Instead of, because sometimes it does jump around. Like they'll put somebody at the top and they'll put somebody in the middle. It should be like the bottom person should be the person who clicked in first. I'm not clicking. I guess everybody at work. All right, we're gonna get somebody. Somebody's still here. It's too many damn names for somebody not to be here. You're gonna make me just start at the top. No, we clicking. Maine, I didn't see the whole name.
Yeah, I'm in.
What's your name?
Main thought. Main.
All right, Main thought. Are you over 21?
I am over 21.
Cool. And are you a believer in the Bible?
I'm the absolute believer in the Bible.
Okay. So, do you agree with these things that the Bible says are moral?
So, I think sometimes we get I do. So we got to go from the beginning, because God is a God of order and measure. His thoughts isn't our thoughts, and I think that's sometimes where we get confused. Not,
So you think
as humans.
So you think slavery is okay?
I do think slavery is okay, because I don't think slavery, if you're going to say is slavery okay now we're talking about the Old Testament. So when you go into the Old Testament and you start looking at how God envisioned everything to be built, and then us falling from his grace, there were things he had to put in place in order for us to get back. And that's the reason why, if you had one man, Adam, who was, had to fall, or then he had to bring Yeshua back, and then he had to pass away in order for all our sins to be, forgiven. It took one man for the fall, took one man to bring us back.
Okay, so you said that you think slavery is okay at certain times. when
No,
did the
I
when did
think slavery was okay in the Old Testament because that was a different time period.
when did the Bible outlaw slavery?
The Bible, if you look at the New Testament and see everything that was taught in the New Testament, when and everything Yeshua has taught, that's when slavery really
What verse?
was done.
What verse? When did they say no more slaves?
I can't say when did they say there was. You tell me when they said there was slaves and that it was okay, because that's not what Yeshua preached. That's not what he tried to teach us. That's not what Paul.
When did Yeshua never spoke of slavery?
But that's my point.
That's not a proof of him being against slavery.
But if you listen to all his doctrines, everything he taught, all of his teaching, and nothing in there was saying for us to be enslaved.
So that's
not what he was teaching.
What teaching did he give that would make you think that he was against slavery?
It's not about the teachings he had. It's the fact that he told us to love one another. For all of us to treat your neighbor, to love your neighbor, treat them with respect and be honorable.
Okay,
be right.
Here's the thing.
Upright.
What does the word neighbor mean in first century?
Well, of course, like we're using English terms.
What did it mean in first century?
It was the person next to you.
Nope, it's not what neighbor meant in first century.
You tell me what it means then.
In first century Hebrew culture, Israelite culture, your neighbor meant your fellow Israelites only. It didn't mean the Romans. It didn't mean the Samaritans or the Canaanites or anybody. That's why he treated the Canaanite woman and called her a dog. Because
no. He did, and then
he called her a dog.
And then what did she say? And if you read the whole scripture, and
one thing, she accepted that she was a dog.
And then she said, "Even dogs eat from the table." And he said, "What?" He said, "You are a woman with great faith."
Right, because but only because she accepted that she was a dog.
No. So you're taking points out of the actual what he's trying to show and what he was trying to teach.
Yeah.
At that particular moment.
That if you accept your place as a dog to the Israelites, then you can have you can have the crumbs of the blessing. No, but you got to accept
she was showing faith within. The faith that she showed in the actual belief she had in her was the reason why he treated her the way he did. And he said, you are faithful. That's what he was looking for. He's looking for someone, and us.
My guy, you are doing some mental gymnastics.
No, it's not mental gymnastics. You're taking words and
I'm taking words for what they mean. Words mean words, don't they?
No, you can see everything's like an allegory. Everything is a story within a story. And you can't take the Bible, pieces of the Bible. You can't take pieces, and you got to take it from the whole. You got to have the beginning to the end. It's a full story.
The Bible does not speak in univocality because it contradicts itself over and over again.
It's not a contradiction, because it's a lot of the Bible. If you're reading through the Bible, which I know you obviously you read it to get to where you're at currently. But if you're reading the Bible and you're looking at it from the beginning to the end, it's one thread. And the contradiction people are bringing out, they'll take pieces off of pieces, but you got to read it all the way through.
You ain't got to
dissect it that way.
You ain't got to take pieces off pieces. You can just take it exactly for what it says, and even in one story. One story contradicts itself. That's not pieces out of pieces. The birth of Jesus. Jesus' birth. Whole situation around his birth contradicts itself.
No, that's us contradicting. That's us of what we believe when he was. I can explain, and then maybe we can come to a common understanding. So what about his birth? What are you saying?
Luke contradicts himself when he says, and he contradicts himself multiple times, but he contradicts himself when he says that the reason why Mary and Joseph had to come down to Jerusalem to Bethlehem, in order to be counted in a census, was because Rome was taxing it was doing a census and taxing all of the empire, whereas they were out of Galilee. Galilee was not part of the Roman Empire as a province at that time frame, so it wouldn't have been taxed on a census. Galilee would have still been independent of a census, so he would not have had to come to Bethlehem to be counted. So that in itself is a historical contradiction. Also, the fact
where do you get that from? Where are you getting that historical contradiction from? I'm saying, like, where's the base of that? You're saying that, let's just say we're going with what you're saying.
Well, based on
Yeah.
Roman, we have Roman records as to when different areas came into the Roman Empire.
So you're taking man's. See, this is where I have conversations with people all the time. It's easy to sit there if they tell you a story about
a real easy way for me to stop having a conversation is when you try to separate the man's this and God's that, because
we're still human, we're still flesh.
Who wrote the Bible?
Even from the beginning, when we were in the Garden of Eden, Adam wasn't us. He wasn't. So his creation isn't our creation. If you read the book of Adam and Eve, it'll talk about how.
Tell me how the Roman records is man's.
Because now, like, all the census that we take today,
Mm-hmm.
if you go by even in America, all the census and all the information and all the stuff they gather, well, all this technology and stuff we have today is still not accurate. There's always percentages of it being off. That's just because it's man stuff. Even at where I work at and I'm doing stuff, everything is an estimate. It's not to the molecule.
Okay, but bruh, when America does its census in 2030, are we counting the people in Canada?
I'm not. You're saying no? I wouldn't think that. You said United States.
So, and yeah, if you saw, and let me backtrack a little bit better. If you go back and look at the 2020 census, did we count the people in Canada?
I'm be honest with you, I'm not even. I don't know.
Would you even think we would count the people in Canada?
I wouldn't think that we would.
So they wouldn't.
I'm thinking it would be it would be USA, the United States of America.
So if you're doing a census on Judea because Herod Archelaus has been kicked out of office, and now Judea is going to become part of Syria, why would you force people from Galilee to come to Judea? The Romans would not have done that. And they didn't do it because it doesn't make governmental sense to do it in the same way America wouldn't say, oh, we're doing a census, so all you Americans who live in Canada, come on down back to your home state so you can be counted.
What I'm saying is the actual when things actually occurred. So what I'm saying to you is they're saying that at this time period, this happened. We all know that everything that's done, usually everything is skewed to whoever is in power or what they want it to be.
Okay.
So what I'm saying to you is
that's not what I was talking about. That's not what I was talking about. You're talking about time frames, and if we go into the time frames, that's where you're going to see that it's another contradiction in the story when it's compared to Matthew. But I was just sticking with what's within Luke itself, because you were saying taking it as a whole. But if I took it as a whole, the census that was done by Quirinius was done in 6 CE, because that's when he was that's when he became governor of Syria, and that's when Herod Archelaus was disposed of out of Judea. Matthew places Jesus' birth during the time frame of Herod the Great, which could be no later than 4 BCE. So there's at least a 10-year gap in time.
And then this is when I go back to and I say to you, and I'm not saying that your information, what you're getting, isn't where you got it from, because I don't know that, as far as I didn't do research on that. What I'm saying to you is when you go back and you start looking at us as men and humankind, and you know how we are as human beings, I'm saying that the accuracy isn't always what we're reading. So that's why you will always have to take things and you have to read multiple different documents and get to so you can get to that.
So tell me how it's inaccurate.
I don't know how it's inaccurate. Now I'm just going by when you look at, so when you start breaking, that's what I'm saying. When you're breaking down the historical book of the Bible, because it's historical.
It's not.
It's a historical book.
It's not.
It is a historical book of
you understand you're arguing inaccuracies, but you can't demonstrate the inaccuracy.
I agree with you. I'm not going to sit there and say I do look at things from a viewpoint of, because I'm a believer. So I do look at things from a viewpoint of that. So what I do is, like, for instance, when we go to morality, you know what I'm saying? You have morality, right? You have it downloaded in you. You have what you feel with what's moral. What I ask you is, where does that come from?
It was taught to me by my parents, and
who taught them? It had to be somebody that said this is right or this is wrong.
So
or this is this or this is that.
So to not go through a whole long diatribe, as far back as we can see archaeologically, and the moment that humans decided that they were going to live together, morality began to be established.
From who? Who was the person, though?
Nobody's you won't be able, you can't pinpoint, you won't be able to pinpoint the person, because our history, so when you look back at history, we have less and less information the further back we go. And then we're going to get to a point where we don't have any information about the society. We have very little information about society, like the footprints that are in Utah that are 25,000 years old. And it's men, women, and children who were walking. That's all we know about them. It was men, women, and children who was walking. We don't know about their religion. We don't know about their economic society. We don't know any of those things. So there's a point where you're just not going to know. But from what we can know of societies is that when people began to live together in family groups and then in bigger, larger family communities, they developed rules for how that family group was going to live.
Where did they get those? So what I'm saying is, if we got morality, it had to be somebody had to give this to
just by being together. No, that's where, because we all this is where the religion steps in, and it's kind of the God of the gaps kind of scenario. It's not that you say that somebody had to give it to them, but nobody had to give them to them, because when they came together, they decided what the rules are going to be. It's just like when you come together with a man or a woman and y'all decide to live together, y'all establish what are going to be the rules of this house.
But who made what I'm saying? So for instance, like everything is designed. If you took a star out of the sky and moved it to the left, the scientific people, the people that know more probably than me and you in the science world, they said everything will collapse because everything is in place, it's designed. So who designed it?
Yeah, well, scientists don't say that everything is designed.
No, they do.
Nah,
they do.
Only religious, only those that 3% of scientists who claim religion say that. The other scientists who study the cosmos do not say that everything is designed.
No, they say they do just say the Big Bang. But what I'm saying to you is, if like nothing just happens.
No, but that's causation. You don't need a consciousness for causation to happen.
You don't. Okay, so everything. If you're looking at our bodies, and I know we going a little, whatever, but I'm just trying to get understanding. If you look at everything that how we're developed, how our blood goes to our body, our veins, one of the most complex thing on earth is the human body. That just happened
over millions of years of adaptation. Yeah.
Whoa, so you believe in evolution?
No, I know it. I don't believe it.
So show me an example of what we used to look like. Like where's that person?
We can
can't show the evolutionary process.
we
They
can
don't show that.
no. So the problem that many people look at, they look at that little scale graph and things of that nature, not realizing that evolution happens over millions of years of tiny adaptations, like not even noticeable adaptation. And so there are like hundreds of thousands of generations before you get to something that looks distinctively different from from something else. So you're not going to see this little, like, all of a sudden somebody has a baby and the baby comes out blue. That's not gonna, you're not gonna have that. Or the baby comes out with 4 arms.
Like,
It's not gonna be the baby comes out with 4 arms all of a sudden from 2 parents who just got 2 arms. It would take thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of small adaptations to get to that point. And that's how evolution works. It doesn't work with these big jumps that people expect.
I'm not asking for the big jump. I'm asking for a jump. Like, I don't see that part of it. You know what I'm saying?
Well,
if you go back to the Lucy or whatever, you know what I'm saying? I need to see the next step or whatever the small adaptation. I'm looking for that piece. You know what I'm saying? Like the small piece. They don't have that. I don't see that.
We don't, and that's part.
Show me,
and
like, and I will look that up.
So that's part of the hard part with the skeletal record. The skeletal record is the worst. It's kind of terrible to look at as far as how evolution works, because like we can look at a whale and see that whale has a the bone structure to have legs, right? We haven't found the skeletal record of whales with legs, but we know that at some point whales must have had legs because they have the skeletal system for legs, right? So we don't see that adaptation. So, but what we can do is when we're looking at microorganisms, we can then see with microorganisms the smaller adaptations that occur. And then the biggest thing about that is most of the time those adaptations happen within a generation, and then something happens to kill off the rest of them. But that small adaptation allowed for this generation to still survive. And then that small adaptation becomes the dominant adaptation. Oh, I'll give you one. And because of something that Drop God has said, that's what brought this to my mind. We can see the small adaptation that manifested what we today call white skin about 6,000 to 7,000 years ago.
White skin 6,000 to 7,000 years ago. Explain.
Meaning that it is through the different environment that people in Europe, that the black people who was in Europe were living in, and moving away from the sea and starting to become agricultural, that the recessive gene of less melanin started becoming the dominant gene in those people who were living in this European theater.
So if we look into our DNA, right? Our DNA, you look in white people DNA, and this is, some that, they were talking about actually, and a white person actually said it. When you look at like the Cro-Magnon and the different species that they found, they are the only ones that have that DNA. I forget the percentage. It was like 1%.
Yeah.
Black people don't have that.
That ain't got nothing to do with skin tone. Neanderthals, Neanderthals, Desovians, Homo erectus, they have black skin. So why don't we have that in our DNA? I feel like at some point. Okay, I'm explaining to you. I was about to explain that part to you. Yeah. So when there's 2 main time frames of migration. One was 125,000 years ago. The other one was about 65,000 years ago. When Homo sapiens started migrating into the Levant and into Europe, they bred out or killed, and it's most likely a combination of both, the Neanderthals. And so you had a Homo sapien Neanderthal combination. And some of those Neanderthals also had been pre-breeding with Desovians, especially like in the steppes area. which is like Asia Minor, the first parts of Asia.
I see.
So you also had Desovians in there. This is why Asian people will have some Neanderthal as well. So as the Homo sapiens started outbreeding them and killing them, those people up there they had the Neanderthal gene traits, while the Homo sapiens who didn't migrate, which is where most of us come from, we never got any of the Neanderthal genome inside of us, because our ancestors didn't migrate to Europe or to Asia. But that has nothing to do with skin color.
But I feel like it does, because why?
I hate to say it this way, but you can feel like it, but your feelings ain't got nothing to do with the science of it.
No, but the science, what you're saying, I hear what you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the day, when you look at you and I, as black men,
Mm-hmm.
you know what I'm saying, we don't have it. And I understand what you're saying. We didn't migrate here, we didn't migrate there, but they are still a different color, and they still hold that.
But the color came about way after they had been mixed with the Homo sapien. The color only.
I do believe they did get mixed. I think it was a mixture up there.
The color only happened about 6,000, 7,000, 8,000 years ago, when there was they needed to get rid of some of their melanin, because they didn't need the protection from the sun. They also in order for them to get vitamin, and also for them to get vitamin D from the sun. Huh? I didn't hear what you said. Say it again.
You think that? I'm sorry. So you think that they purposely wanted to get rid of the melanin? That's what you said.
No, they didn't do it on purpose. It's just a natural thing that happened, just because of the environment that they were living in. That's all. Just yeah, like if you were to go back 7,000 years and you were to snatch somebody from back then and put them in America today, that person would probably develop emphysema, because their body is not conditioned to breathe in all this bullshit air that we breathe in. But
I could agree with that.
We adapt to being able to breathe in this environment with all this all the stuff that we got going on with cars and factories and all that. And in the same way, if I took you and shipped you back, hell, just 1,000 years ago, you probably had problems with all the methane that was in the air, especially during the time frame that there was a mini ice age, because there was so much methane in the air. All that cow and goat and sheep shit created so much methane. You probably have a hard time. You and I would have a hard time breathing then, because our systems are not haven't adapted to that. Right.
But I can agree with that, but I still think that when we go back to the topic we're talking about God and morality, and
let's get back to that.
The design of who we are, I feel like nothing is like, everything is done. It's too perfect. So for us to just become in a big bang, and then boom, we was an organism, and then we just started, we become what we are today. That's, to me, in my mind frame, I'm sorry, it just doesn't make sense. I hear you putting the facts that you're putting in there, saying this, that, and the third, but everything is designed. We have morality. There had to be a moral giver.
No,
there had to be somebody who said,
that's the God of the gaps thing, man, because the fact of the matter is that based on mathematical calculation of our observable universe, there will literally be about 400 million planets where life as we know it can develop. And the mere fact that you're calling this perfect, Earth is not perfect for us. Earth is like that movie After Earth for us, because humans, we live in places that we weren't meant to be living in, and damn near most of the stuff on this planet it will kill us. You can get
the design. Yeah, the design is perfect, is what I'm saying.
The design is but that's what I'm saying. Design is not perfect. A perfect design would be a situation where we would thrive without having to develop technologies. Like you don't see
Oh,
bears and stuff developing technology, right?
And that's our issue. And that's what God, that's where once we fail and we start making our own decisions, I feel like technology, as we love it and we think it's useful and this, that, and the third, and information does get spread and all that stuff, because it said he talks about it as we get close to the end of the days, information will start coming out, people will start understanding, but technology, that is going to be the thing that's going to ultimately be our downfall. They talk about it in the Bible. They talk about robots. They talk about planes.
Oh my God, they do not talk. They do not talk about robots and planes.
They do.
You've been listening. I forgot that. You listened to that. What's that black minister who said that bullshit a couple weeks ago?
Listen to a black minister.
It was some black minister talking about they got robots and they had helicopters. And I did a video on it earlier this week. And I was like, this motherfucker just making some shit up.
No, it's in there.
No.
I'm gonna get the verse for you.
You don't. I know. I did a video about it, and it's not because see, in ancient times, you can find ancient stories in and around that 1st century and earlier and after the 1st century, where they talk and other people talked about statues that talked and that had life and was given life. That was already a concept to them that statues would have life. And as far as the little cricket with the man head and hair like a woman and teeth and shooting fire from his tail, what helicopter or plane shoots fire from it, shoots missiles from their tails? And in that part, hold on, in that part of Revelations 9, it's Revelations 9 and Revelations 13, I think. But in those parts, it talks about the sting from the tail of the cricket with the scorpion tail and the man head is only supposed to make a person feel sick for 5 months. What helicopter technology is making you feel sick for 5 months? They blow. I was in the Marine Corps. We blow shit up. You don't get.
When they say sick, that's why I said we gotta watch our word. And I don't know Hebrew, but you know that once things get translated into English, some of the words we're getting a full story. We're getting a story, but it might not be the full story because a day.
Don't.
5 years are like it's the same word in Hebrew. You understand what I'm saying?
I understand what you're saying, but in the book of Revelations, and especially if you read the New Revised Standard Updated Edition, the Koine Greek that's translated is translated perfectly in English. There's no.
We can't. You ever hear a Spanish person or people
Bruh.
Different? No, real quick. You ever hear somebody that says there's not a word like that in my language? Like when we're using English, they can't really. There's not a word for that.
Okay,
I've gotten that talking to people. We don't have a word for that.
But that's not the case. But that's not the case in this situation. In this situation, it's not. Now you notice you want to use those kinds of reasonings when it doesn't fit your narrative. But if I guarantee if it fit your narrative, if the New Revised Standard Updated Edition said that the fire that comes from the tail like snakes and they shoots these little missiles like snakes and it kills the people, you'd be like, oh yeah, that's a correct translation. But because it says it only makes them feel sick and they may want to die because of the agony they're in for 5 months, now there's it may not be translated right.
No, okay, I'm with you with that, but we still having an understanding of when that time comes and that situation happens. And the way I'm interpreting it, the whole situation is maybe they won't die, maybe they will be hurt, maybe you know what I'm saying. I understand some people will die, but not everybody die in war.
See, I could have given you I know, but see, I could have given you an out, but I was gonna see if you're gonna come up with it for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
We don't do this now. No military does this now.
Mm-hmm.
But you could equip a helicopter with a biogenic weapon, a biological weapon that only makes people sick. So you could have said that. That would have been a good comeback to what I said.
That's like when Trump went over there with Venezuela and they said they came with these sonic things and they said they knocked them down. We know that military, they got all type of different things.
Yeah. I mean,
You know,
that's a
stuff
old,
happened.
yeah, we've had that since back when I was in 30 years ago, but it wasn't utilized as widespread. But the fact of the matter is, this description of a grasshopper is not a helicopter, and the statue is not something that they are using motifs that they already are familiar with. Because in Egypt, there was a statue of Amenhotep III that they believe talked every morning. Now, what had happened is that in 27 BCE, an earthquake happened. It split the stone, and the moisture, when the sun comes up and the moisture is evaporating, it made a whistling sound through the cracks. And people thought, oh, the statue is speaking. God, the statue speaks. It didn't get fixed until 196 CE, when Septimus Severus, who is a person of color, Roman emperor, went down there and fixed the statue. But before that, people thought this statue speaks. Amenhotep III he did rise to godhood like he said he was. He did, and he is speaking to us through the statue, and people were worshiping that. And so the writer of Revelations would have known that, as well as other statues that supposedly talked all throughout the Mediterranean during that time frame.
But I don't think it's the same. That's what I'm saying to you. I hear what you're saying, but I don't think it's the same when it comes to God. And the reason why we're in the situation we're in right now is because we ultimately we're worshiping other gods. We're worshiping, idols and different things that we find value to us. And it's like a father. Like if your child start calling another man dad and worshiping now, you're like, man, I'm the one to take care of you. I'm the one who do this. So that's why we're going through the things we're going through, because he created us.
Now we're going through what we're going through because kingdoms rise and fall, governments rise and fall, civilizations rise and fall.
No, I'm talking throughout the world.
Yeah, throughout the world, governments.
This ain't the worst time. People think, oh, it's the worst time in history. This ain't the worst. It's been bad.
That we can agree on. This is not the worst time.
It's been bad. So what I'm saying to you is, I feel like we have to go through. God is a God of measure, and we have to get to certain points to get to the next point, to get to the next point. It's design, and his thinking isn't our thinking.
Yeah, I mean,
and I think that's what we felt.
You know what? I'm not even going to argue your point there, because that comes down to belief and faith, and which is something that can't be argued. If a person believes something or have faith in something, that's basically arguing feelings and thoughts and preferences. All right. I appreciate you, though. I'm going to try to let some other people get up.
You, brother. I'll check back in on you.
All right. Good conversation.
Good combo.
All right. Peace. Why can't every conversation go that smoothly? I don't know. We're not having some smooth one today. Maybe because yesterday I was complaining about not having smooth conversations. I mean, not yesterday, the day before. I got a super chat. I always read a super chat, so don't think I forgot about you, because I ain't read no other comments. I stopped the comment movement. So at Dewan 1881, who super chatted $4.99. Thank you very much for supporting the channel. He said, me and my wife were talking about this morality. I shared with her that men make the morals, not a God. And I agree 100%. That's the part that the religious people will have to say a God gave the religion. If so, on here, this is TikTok. Over there is Facebook and YouTube. YouTube allows for you to do with super chats, which are a donation, financial donation to the channel, and your statement comes up big and bold and colorful and everything. And so anytime somebody, I never ask for them, but if somebody does a super chat, I'm definitely going to read their comment and give it a little bit of time. So that's what that is. They don't do that on TikTok. TikTok, you got your gifts and stuff. I can only appreciate the gifts because it doesn't give a comment or nothing like that with it. Just different platforms. Even the stars on Facebook don't do it. But anyway, but you're absolutely right. That's the leap that a believer has to make, that a God created everything from the beginning, which is why I believe Main Thought was saying that, was going back to creation, is because you have to, they have to have a intelligent designer that created everything, and since everything begins with the creative designer, then all morals and everything extends from that creative designer. But what we see in history is that civilizations have come up and they develop their own morals, and then later on they give it to a god because they don't understand the natural world that's happening around them, right? So it's like the volcano erupts. They didn't have a volcano god at first, but then the volcano erupted for the first time in their civilization, and so they then attribute it to a god. And then they say that, well, this god Vulcanus says that we got to give him sacrifices and we got to give him worship in order for him not to do the volcano again. So then they establish a system of morality based around that god. So man comes first, then the god. Now that was a lot of comments ago that the super chat was given. Before I go to the next person, let me make sure another super chat wasn't given. Okay. And like I said, I never asked for super chats, but I do appreciate them. I never asked for gifts, but I do appreciate them. All right. That was the only super chat. Yeah. Now, I don't know the order that all these people had clicked on. I know Guru had been waiting for a while. I do remember that name. Guru. Guru there. Guru going once. By the time I relight this cigar, if Guru don't say nothing, we're gonna move on to the next person. I do apologize to all my TikTokers. Oh, I was just about to disconnect you, man. You've been waiting. Shit.
So I forgot I clicked on there. My bad, man. My bad.
You're over 21, right?
Okay. Yes, sir. Yeah.
Cool.
All right. So I got a couple questions, and I'm try to make it towards the prompt and whatnot. So my first question would be, because I don't see homosexuality up there, and I'm not against homosexuality. I feel people can do whatever it is that they want to do.
That's a you know what? Because I rotate these subject matters, I'm gonna add that one to it. That is a good one.
Yeah, because I was trying to figure out, like, I know there's, and I'm not all savvy with scripture, but I know in Leviticus it says that a man shouldn't wear clothing that a woman wears, and vice versa, or something to that effect. Yeah. And I know it says a man shouldn't be with a man as if he would lie with a woman.
Yes. I mean,
that's what I'm trying to.
That's used against homosexuality.
Okay.
Back in their day, their time frame, they didn't have the same concept of homosexuality that we have. Homosexuality in our modern day mindset is two consensual adults of the same sex agreeing to have sex with each other or be in a intimate relationship with one another. Back in their time frame, men, it was common to have a young man who was an apprentice, and he would also, or a slave, and he would provide sexual favors for the master. That was common. That was normal society for them. When they talk about men in their concepts at that time frame, when they talk about men just sleeping with another man, is usually is meant in the framework of buck breaking and essaying another man. Right. And then the part about women's clothing, now that's just a legitimate one. I haven't been able to find, I've looked for some PhD papers on that particular subject as far as the cross-dressing part. But I haven't found anything on that one. So I don't want to speculate that one.
Okay. So that's my first question. So my second question, I don't even know if it's really a question, but okay, I'll say it like this. Do you feel that I think it was in Genesis 9 where it starts to say that they were getting off the boat with Noah and whatnot, and I know at least for my research to take at least 3 to 4 years to plant a vineyard. I don't know how long it would take to get your yield, but it's going to take a while to make some wine, right? You got to go through even the wine process.
About 5 years. About 5 years to get a good wine is usually 5 to 7 years.
Well, I call content, right? Okay,
Mhm.
okay. All right. So with that being said, obviously we know in Genesis 9 he kind of skips things. He planted a vineyard, then he became drunk out of nowhere, right?
Right.
Now, I argue with a lot of people on this, and I just want to know your opinion on it. Okay, I feel that Ham had nothing to do with it. I feel it was Canaan that did a sexual act on his grandfather. How do you feel about that?
That's
And
wrong.
I'll explain why I feel that way.
Yeah,
I'll
because
explain why I feel
it clearly says that Ham was the one who uncovered his father's nakedness, which
that. Okay.
has two meanings to it. The first meaning of uncovering your father's nakedness is to have sex with your father's wife. The other meaning is, well, there's three meanings. The second meaning is to have sex with the person, to violate the person sexually. And the third meaning is exactly what it says. You saw your father naked.
Well, that's the thing. I've never heard of that third meaning. And in the context of that particular story, Ham came in and saw that his father was naked.
And
then it said that
that's the context clue.
He knew what his younger son had done. And I know they don't use grandson or anything in that terminology in the Bible at all, but it mentioned again in Genesis 9, it talked about all of the boys, and then it says and Canaan. So it did mention Canaan. So Canaan would technically be the ninth person, and it never talked about a union between Canaan's, Ham and his wife, and then bringing forth Canaan or whatever. It literally just mentioned Canaan. So that's my only reason why I'm bringing it up in this way, because it doesn't specify that there was any relations going on between Ham and his wife to have that baby. And when you look into Leviticus, yes, uncovering your father's nakedness has to do with messing with your mama.
Yeah.
If you look into that, right? So in Genesis, he didn't uncover his father's naked. He only saw his father naked, and he went and told his brothers what he saw. So it wasn't like he was in guilt, because he told his brothers what he saw.
Right.
And when he came in with the garment, his brothers walked backwards to cover him.
Mhm.
Because they just didn't want to see their dad naked. That's all. And I understand that. Anybody, I don't want to look at my daddy's genitals and stuff like that. So you know what I mean? I'm gonna cover that up. Now that's the only reason why I say it's Canaan, because again, at the end of the day, it's cursed be Canaan. And then when you look into those Canaan descendants, you get I want to say, and I could be wrong in this, but you get a lot of the Nephilim that was talked about. I'm gonna say Nephilim. You get a lot of the giants that was mentioned in the Bible coming out of Canaan's line, and Canaan was essentially cursed according to that scripture. And that's why I say, how do you feel about that? Because I wrestle with it a lot, but I truly feel Canaan was the one that did a sexual act on his dad, and that's like the first homosexual act in family.
So I feel like it's bullshit. All right. But what I know through study is that because of the contextual words around it, it is not indicating that he had sex with his mom, nor that he violated his dad, but he literally saw him naked. He just saw that he was naked, because even seeing your father, your mother, and most people naked was like a cultural violation. Right now, as far as Canaan is concerned, it's propaganda. The writers of the time frame that Genesis was being written is over the time frame of the Assyrian conquest through the Babylonian conquest. So it was started being writing while they were under Assyrians, and it was kind of finished editing during the Babylonian time frame. What they were doing was writing propaganda against the Canaanites, because that was to them their mortal enemy, because that's where they came from. They need to make the Canaanites look as bad as they possibly can, because their God Yahweh was a lower level Canaanite God.
I was gonna say, you gotta be a Canaanite deity, right?
Yeah, he was a Canaanite deity. So a lot of the writings concerning Canaanite people is propaganda. So they had to establish where this hatred of the Canaanites come from. And so instead of him punishing Ham or cursing Ham, he curses Canaan. Doesn't curse any of, because Ham at this time frame, I think he had like 6 or 9 children. I think it's 6, but he had like 6 kids. He didn't punish none of the other kids. He didn't punish Cush or Put or Mizraim. He punished Canaan because the Canaanites were their sworn enemies.
See, that's right. And again, I got to go back and look at it again because I know the next chapter will be the Table of Nations, in that beginning of chapter 10, and that's when I know they are describing those children. But just in Genesis 9 alone, right? It talks about Noah getting off the boat, making a vineyard, coming drunk, and he knew what his younger son had did to him, and the fact that they mentioned Canaan's name. In that, I just felt like, and if his curse be Canaan, and then you gotta look at all the things that happened with Canaan. I know that you were saying like it's a propaganda thing or whatever. It's just that I know they didn't use grandson. He knew what his younger son had did to him. And I'm only going in English. I only understand English. I don't know the language.
Well, Ham was the youngest of the 3 sons.
Okay.
And then here's,
I figured that much at least. It's just that for me, seeing that father's uncovering, not seeing, but uncovering that father's nakedness, and then that being something with the mom, that whole Leviticus thing, and that even came later. That wasn't even a commandment.
that
was a later situation.
That was a later
so
situation.
Even seeing your father naked without that Levitical law at the time, I don't look at that as bad. He was just like, "Hey man, Pop, what's going on with Pops?
Yeah.
He looking kind of weird. Let me go get my brothers. All right, bro, we got it. Let me just cover him up."
Yeah.
And what have you after that, right? But and then the curse was he was going to be a slave to his brothers or whatever.
And when was he a curse to his brothers? When was he a slave to his brothers?
Never that I've seen. But I mean, I look at that.
There's one small part where you can say it, but it's not widespread. There's a small part when the tribe of Dan and I think that one of the tribes of Manasseh couldn't fully conquer these Canaanites, so they made them their slaves. Right? That's the only time. There's no widespread where all the Canaanites were slaves to the Shemites. Never happened.
Something with their
and let me tell you something else that you just exposed, so to speak. This is one of the reasons why we know that none of these books were written during the time frame of Moses, that they were all written while they were under Assyrian and Babylonian captivity, is because the Levitical laws are written at the chronological time frame of Moses, but yet they're implied in the earlier parts of the Bible.
Right, and that don't make sense.
Exactly.
But they say he wrote the first 5 books, which to me, I don't even understand that. He would have to written about himself and know of himself prior to becoming a human and all of that kind of jazz.
Yeah,
that's different.
And the fact, and the fact that we know historically he never existed makes it even worse.
Exactly. So, all right, that was the only 2 things that I would say that I had a question on. I was wondering. I know you had a couple little spots at the bottom. I was going to say that might be a good one to throw in there.
Yeah, that is a good one. I'm going to add that one to this conversation when the next time we have it.
Okay, cool.
All right. Appreciate you.
Yeah, take care.
Thanks, Guru.
Yeah.
So Dalius super chatted $2. Thank you for the super chat, Dalius, but he ain't put no comments on it. But then Dalius came back and he super chatted $5. And he said, when it said that Jesus cast demons into the hogs, why it sounds like he screwed a hog and killed them because he was ashamed. The fact that I say that I'm gonna read any super chat, I'm gonna read it sometimes. So for those who don't know, there's the story when Jesus goes, they sail across the sea. I think it's the Sea of Galilee. They sail across the Sea of Galilee, which is just a big ass lake, really. And they come to this other town. There's a man who's chained up. The man has a whole bunch of schizophrenic demons in him. And so, but they recognize it has only been since the 20th century that we said that it's not demons, it's schizophrenia. But he pretty much has schizophrenia, chained them up to the rocks. Jesus supposedly comes and he excised these demons out of this young man. The demons are negotiating with him, like, please, Jesus, don't destroy us. But if you can, just send us into these pigs. And so Jesus agrees. He makes this deal with the demons, which is crazy. If Jesus is supposed to be God, why is he making deals with demons? But he makes this deal with the demons. The demons go into these hogs, and these hogs go running off a cliff. Dallas is saying that it sounded like he screwed the Hogs in that story. But there's two interesting things about that. Why is he making a deal with the demons? And then the other part is Jesus is an asshole in this situation. Just pig farming was a low caste job. Like you were of the lower caste if you did pig farming. And some poor pig farmer lost his livelihood because Jesus made a deal with some demons. And people say you want to go with the morality of Jesus. So, hey, because I made a deal with demons, I'm going to fuck over somebody and they whole livelihood who is already poor. I'm going to screw over the poor and kill all they hogs because the Israelites didn't eat pig, other people around there ate pig. But actually, well, during first century, most Israelites didn't eat pig, but like way back when, northern Israelites were eating pigs. But this dude he was providing pigs. So he could have been providing pigs to the Romans, to all these other people who were living in Judea. And he was a poor pig guy. He's already poor. He's already at the lowest level. So Jesus just took these people's livelihood because he made a deal with demons. Tell me again about how Jesus is this moral character. I'm really, really struggling to find this morality in this Jesus character. Let's see. We the box keep getting full, but of course people aren't there. Is it moral to sleep with your neighbor's wife? Hell no, you shouldn't be sleeping with your neighbor's wife unless y'all swingers. Don't be sleeping with your neighbor's wife unless y'all got permission. Then you and your neighbor's wife and all y'all can get together. He said, is it moral to sleep with your neighbor's wife? Well, there you go. Jesus sounds moral. That makes no sense. I never watched The Exorcist. Got a lot of people who clicked, but we're not coming up. Yeah, that hog story is crazy. And people only like talk about like, yes, and see, Jesus got rid of the hogs. He was a miracle. He performed a healing. Let's look around that story. There's a lot of bullshit with that story. I'm clicking on people.
Yes, sir.
Veg Davis.
Yes, sir.
Are you over 21?
I'm 70 years old, sir.
Oh, all right. And are you a believer?
I just want to make it clear that I am tolerant of all people's faith.
Okay.
That I believe everyone's belief, whether they're Protestant, Catholic, Lutheran, Nazarene, if they are true to their faith and they're not hypocritical of their faith, then I respect all faiths.
So you respect their faith, but you don't believe in their faiths.
I do believe in the faiths of all people's faiths, and let me explain why. Because when people gather together in, let's say, a church or a synagogue or wherever, if people gather together and they're sincere in their love of each other, and they're sincere in their intent to do good for the world and other people. For example, religious organizations have charity. So in other words, I sponsor an orphanage in Uganda of 180 children.
All right.
That's what I spend all my money on. And so, and I have a GoFundMe for it, but whatever. Okay, I'm not trying to, and I'm author of 2 books and 70 magazine articles. So
awesome.
What I'm trying to say is that I respect all people's faith as long as they're not hypocrites to their faith. You see what I think? All faiths are sacrosanct. In other words, if you believe,
I'm with you.
If you're a Catholic, then your dogma is sacrosanct. But if you're a hypocrite to your own faith, in other words, the will of God will not lead you where the grace of God cannot keep you. If you're a womanizer, a gambler, you're on schmugs, you know what I mean? Then how can you be true to God? You can't say, well,
but do you recognize that being true to your faith has changed in every generation?
I realize, and I've written 2 books, and I explain all this in my books, that the society has become demoralized, in my opinion. But the point I mean, the point what I think is very exceptional is that in my book I cover every subject on your bullet points there. Every subject in detail.
Okay, so
I can tell you revelations.
Wait, let me ask you a question.
Mm-hmm.
So 100 years ago, when Christians in America came together in their churches, and they said women shouldn't have the right to vote, where you say you think that they were right?
No, I don't think they're right, but I explain all that in my book. I talk about women's rights. I talk about equal rights.
Okay, that I understand. But what I'm saying is what I'm getting at here is that you say that as long as people come together in love and harmony and all this sort of thing in their different religions, which sounds very like omnism, but at different time frames, those very same people, the ancestors of the people today, were coming together to do things that you now disagree with, and they were doing it based on their religion.
And 100%. In other words, I love some of the things that you said. I was listening to you, and I was getting, as I have things to do, but I thought it was very important that I make my statements, because listen to this. What I'm saying is the reason I have all respect for all faiths is because, like I said, certain things in modern society are not considered acceptable under certain religions. You see what I'm saying? But I'm telling you that I'm a Zen Buddhist, and Zen Buddhists never went to Africa to take slaves, but Christians took slaves in Africa for 450 years. And the reason Buddhists didn't do that is because of the dogma called ahimsa, which is in the English dictionary. The word is in the English dictionary. It's very clear what it means. AHIMSA.
But so were you okay? But were you okay with them doing that?
What?
Were you okay with them doing that?
No, let me explain something. The word ahimsa, AHIMSA, is in the English dictionary. It means non-violence.
I understand that.
Sacredness of all living creatures. Okay, so to take a slave, you have to commit violence, number one. Because a person who becomes a slave is not just going to say, okay, see ya, I'll see everybody. I'm just going to go along with these people. No, you got to be taken forcefully, brutally, to be taken into a slave.
I understand.
Okay?
I understand.
That's one thing that goes against the.
Hold on. I understand.
And then the sacredness.
Veg Davis, I need you to hold on, because I don't let Christians preach. I don't let nobody preach on my channel. Okay.
I'm clarifying what I was explaining.
You're not tackling what I'm saying. And what I'm saying is your first statement was that you respect everybody's religion, and that all their religion is sacrosanct. But there are things that are done in religions to this day that I would wager that your morality would be against. For instance, in Islam, in some Islamic countries, they circumcise little girls.
No, I'm against that. I'm against Sharia law.
So then you can't say that everybody's religion and your morality is sacrosanct then.
Yes, as long as it doesn't, in the eyes of society, in other words, in the eyes of the majority of society, doesn't feel that that's evil. That's the way I look at it. You're right. I think that Sharia law is definitely not a good thing towards humanity. And in other words, in my book, I explain the lifestyle that would never. In other words, as a Zen Buddhist, there would be no violence in society.
Right. So
Okay,
all religions
that's-
aren't so all religious positions aren't sacrosanct then.
Well, okay, let's say virtually then, because you're right. I agree that Sharia law, in other words, they say that 2/3 of Muslims in the world practice Sharia law, or 1/3. I forgot correct me if I'm wrong.
I'm not sure.
But I don't agree with Sharia law, which people believe that we should be unalived for not believing in what they believe in. Now, I believe that's incorrect. So in other words, there is exceptions to the rule, but in essence, virtually, I try to respect all people's faith as long as they're not a hypocrite to their own belief. You see what I mean?
Mhm.
But a lot of times I see people trying to petition the Lord with prayer, that people make selfish. I don't like that when I see people making selfish like prayers just for themselves, for wealth or power or whatever. I think that's a not a good practice. You see it. I see flaws in all faiths, but I respect people for having dignity and trying to be good people. In other words, I know good people who are Muslims. I know good people who are Jewish people. I know good people who are Hindu people, and of course Buddhist people. I mean, I know people of all faiths, and I respect them, and I like them as people. And there's other people of those faiths that I don't like. You
Right.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's people of different, there's white people.
No,
that
I'm
I
with
really
you.
Don't respect.
I'm with you. So
There's black people I don't respect.
So basically, as long as somebody's religion, what they're doing in their religion is not taking away someone else's agency, you're okay with them doing that part of their religion, but not all parts of their religion, because many parts of the religions violate people's personal agency.
Right.
Okay.
So I've covered that, but what I've done is I have studied the first century, okay, about Jerusalem, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I have studied major history books. I've studied Fordham University research. I've studied.
Okay,
the
I need you.
book.
I'm getting close to the time frame where I get off, so I need you to get straight to the point, direct.
Okay. So I've studied all these history books, right? Now, do you agree that it says, according to the research I've done, the Bible was written by 40 to 70 meat-eating scribes on 3 different continents. In other words, the Bible is ambiguous. I do not believe that all the stories in the Bible are accurate.
Right.
Actually historical fact, but some of them may be. And what I did is study history books to see how history coincides with what the scripture's saying. What I've come up with is incredible revelation, and I believe is absolutely the truth. I've studied this 30 years in a dozen books.
Okay, what is it?
And in my book, I also explain this in chapter 2.
What is it?
So,
what is the part? I was thinking that was leading up to a bigger point.
Okay, so the main point I'm making is if this is just I have like 100 different pieces of evidence. This is just one. Okay, now if according to the history books, the Jews that came from Nazareth originated in Galantis, Bashantis, and Transjordan. Okay, these Jews were different than the other Jews. Okay, they were different. They believed in what Moses believed in. However, these Jews, the Jews that came from Nazarene, ate nothing living and wore clothing made from plants. Okay, and I have overwhelming evidence, and I have quotes by the Israelites, and Christ was an Israelite. I have quotes by the Israelites. I have quotes by Christ. I have quotes from the Hebrew Bible and the First Testament. I have overwhelming evidence. I have quotes from the saints. I have quotes from theologians.
Gotcha.
Okay. I mean, I could make, I've
Okay.
already made 40-minute presentations done podcasts on this and
And I would agree with you on that. I would also add in the Sumerians, not Sumerians, but the Sumerians to that, because they were a different type of Israelites as well. To that
And
group.
what about the Essenes?
Yeah, the Essenes were a different type of Israelite as well.
Okay, so
they were like
I
cousins.
believe, according to my research, that many of the Nazarenes
Mhm.
could have been Essenes, and that's consistent because first-century historian Josephus. Here's a quote by first-century historian Josephus. He says, the Essenes, lived on vegetables that they grew on their own accord and wore such clothing that could only be procured from plants and trees, unquote. You never seen Christ wearing leather, fur, hide, or anything, or even wool. You see Christ only wearing linen in all the depictions.
No,
So I mean, just saying.
I got you.
So
what's the name of your book?
My book, I'm the author of The Conscious Planet.
Okay. So the Conscious Planet.
Conscious Planet. I'm Neil M. Pine. Neil M. Pine. P-I-N-E, like a tree.
All right. So I like to give people shout outs when they've done things like that, when they've written things, even if I agree or disagree.
I sponsor an orphanage.
Okay.
I sponsor an orphanage.
I gotta go.
Uganda.
I gotta go, my man.
Okay. The Conscious Planet Vegan Orphanage of Uganda on GoFundMe. Thank you. Bless you so much.
Have a good one.
Thank you.
Thanks. Yeah, it's almost gym time, so we gotta make it quick. Of course, if Miss Fifi is on here, I gotta bring up Miss Fifi.
You know, I know you got to get to your wife. She's coming home, or she's home, and dinner's almost ready.
Well, we gotta go to the gym first, even though it's raining.
You know, worked up a appetite. Oh my goodness.
How you doing?
You know, I think that is going to be the evolution of man when he realizes that knowledge is the most high, not these beliefs and things that you cannot produce other than within your mind.
Indeed.
Because we're going to have to survive.
You are absolutely right.
It was so weird when you kept telling the guy, when people get together, they set up this morality that they're going to have within the camp, and that's what they did. But he couldn't fathom that a person can relate to another person and come up with some rules. They needed a God to tell them what to do.
Sadly, that's the part. That's why I had to let that conversation go, because like you are applying your God of the gaps because your God has to be the creator of all things, but you have absolutely no proof of your God's existence. So therefore, it's just a reach that you're making. And I like what you said about knowledge being the thing that will evolve us into a higher state of being, because next week, this is some shameless advertising, just to let you know. But next week, probably on Monday, I'm going to divert from what I normally been talking about. And we're going to talk about Apollonius of Tyana and break down how his story lines up with the Jesus story. And most likely, a lot of the information that you see in the Bible about Jesus comes from Apollonius of Tyana. And he was validated by Christian writers. And, so, and his teachings were a Neo-Pythagorean style of teaching, but he also traveled to India under the Burmans, traveled to Egypt, traveled to all these different places, and had a mindset similar to what you see with, as the other gentleman was talking about, the Essenes, the Nazarenes, but his thing was knowledge is how we attain divinity, was his teaching. But I ain't gonna go deep into it because we're gonna talk about that on Monday.
Okay.
Yeah.
That sounds good.
Yeah. But yeah, it's been I see the people who are religious who come on here who believe in this book. No matter what the morality of the Bible says, Old Testament, New Testament, they have to implicate that some God has to be able to imbue these moral constructs into man. Otherwise, man would just do all kind of evil, weird things. and then they have to say that, well, Jesus, and also they have to say that Jesus changed all the what seemed to be immoral things of the Old Testament so that we can all live in this harmony, because they have a modern take on Jesus, not a first century take on Jesus, which you should have a first century if you want to understand what the writings are talking about.
Yes.
And really, I would say you need to have a second century. I just let them have first century, because in my studies, well, none of that shit written until late first century, early second century is when these things were being written. They were not being written at the time. They were not. None of these writings are contemporary to Jesus. So, but yep.
Yeah, I know.
But it's time to go to the gym, man, Miss Lady.
Okay.
All right.
Feeling it up.
I appreciate you being here. I gotta get sexy. I'm finna hit 55 in a few months, so I gotta get sexy for 55. All right. Thank you, Miss Fifi.
Take care.
You too.
Okay.
Right. I know we had a lot of people who tried to get on today. I apologize. I only had like 3 hours to be on here, which is my normal time anyway, about 3 hours. So I normally go on about around 2 o'clock, and we go until 5. Friday, I generally don't go live. It depends on how much work I get. On Fridays, I'm done at 3, because that's when my wife gets home, at 3 o'clock on Fridays. If I get all my other work done early enough, I will go live tomorrow, if I get my work done. If I don't, I ain't. But it will be done at 3. So I appreciate everybody for being here. Thank you for the super chats today. And as you see, if you do a super chat on YouTube, it will get read aloud and talked about, even if it's crazy about Jesus having sex with hogs. Damn, Dallas. And Dallas is a member on YouTube, so he supports the channel also monthly with a very small donation on YouTube as a member. And it doesn't show me who are the Facebook subscription holders, but for the Facebook subscription holders, I thank you guys as well. And the people who give gifts on Miss Fifi, always giving lightning bolts and hearts and stuff on TikTok, so I appreciate that. And yes, I'm biased. People like Miss Fifi, who does that constantly, she comes up in the chat box. I'm gonna bring her up. Plus, she just sounds so sweet. I can't wait to meet Miss Fifi one day, because she sounds so sweet. Actually, Drop, she sounds really sweet too. Sound like a nice lady. But I appreciate everybody. I didn't see, it was somebody I was looking to see come on, but I never saw them make a comment, because I missed the comment that she brought up. Yes, I'm partial to women. But she made a comment about moving back to Texas, Boss Lady, but I don't know if she's on here. I missed your comment, Boss Lady, when you say within 6 months you are moving back to Texas. You definitely got to let me know if you do choose to come back here to San Antonio. If you're watching this later, that's your marching order to let me know that. So I appreciate you guys. It's been a great show today. We actually had some good constructive conversations. Most of them, and I appreciate those, whether we are in agreement or disagreement. Is great when grown people can get together and have respectful dialogue with one another, and we can walk away from it still with respect for one another, and that's always my goal. So with that, it's 4:59 Central Standard Time. Oh, and all the times I gave y'all are Central Time. I'm in San Antonio, so they're Central Time. So I will see you guys on possibly tomorrow. If I am able to do it tomorrow, I'll probably get started around noon. If I'm able to get on here tomorrow, that's going to be a hard one to do, but most likely Monday. And start read up on Apollonius of Tyana, because I think that'll be a good conversation in a comparison of Apollonius of Tyana to Jesus, and that being a template for the Jesus narrative that was written so long after Tyana had traveled all through the Levant, India, Rome, and we're going to see a lot of similarities between the two. So that'll be on Monday. So y'all have a great day. And always remember, you got to free yourself to be yourself, because your greatness is non-negotiable. Good journey, good vibrations. I'm going to have to start coming on earlier.